How to install Linux on your computer. There are many reasons to start using Linux. One of them is that probably you have an old computer that is not supported by the new Windows requirements, or probably you want to test a new operating system free of virus and license issues. Whatever the reasons you have, Linux is a great choice for daily use. Before installing it, let's talk about some of its characteristics. Linux was created in 1991 by a Finland student called Linus Torvalds. Linux is a Unix-like operating system, and this is the reason why it is a robust and secure OS. Because Linux is open source, there are many companies and organizations that distribute Linux with many open source packages, providing a complete OS ready to use. In this case, we're going to install a popular Linux distribution called Ubuntu. So, let's begin. To install Ubuntu Linux, we're going to follow the next 4 steps. 1. Get the image or ISO file of Ubuntu Linux. 2. Make bootable an USB drive which will contain the image file that we downloaded on the step 1. 3. Configure the BIOS to boot the computer from the USB drive so that when the computer starts, the Linux installer copied on the step 2 runs. 4. Install Ubuntu Linux, following the steps suggested by the installer wizard. To download Ubuntu, let's open our browser and let's search for Ubuntu. In the first link we can see ubuntu.com as the domain. This is the official Ubuntu website, so this means that our download will be secure. So let's click on it. The Ubuntu website offers us different versions of Ubuntu to download. For example, we have the desktop version. We have also the server, the cloud, the core, and many other alternatives to download. In this tutorial, we will use the desktop version. This is a suitable version for a daily use. So let's click on the Download Ubuntu Desktop button. Now the Ubuntu web page offers us the latest Ubuntu version. This is the 24.04.1 LTS version. So to start the download, click on the Download button. Let's wait for a moment, and as we can see, our download has just been started. Once our download has been completed, it's time to create a bootable USB drive. To do that, let's use an application called Balena Etcher. So, let's open a new tab and let's search for Balena Etcher. Click on the first link and click on the Download Etcher button. Here we choose the Etcher for Windows option. Click on the download link. Once the download has been completed, let's open the download folder. Right click on Balena Etcher and run as administrator. Let's click on yes. Click on Flash from File and let's go to the Downloads folder. Choose Ubuntu, click Open, and now we have to choose the right USB drive to make it bootable. Click on the check option and click on Select One. And now click on Flash. Click on Yes. Remember that during this process, all the data inside the USB drive will be removed, so make a backup before this process. Okay, now we get the message Flash completed. Just close Balena Etcher. Now that we have a bootable USB drive with the Ubuntu installer ready to be used, it's time to restart the computer and set up the BIOS to boot from the USB drive, and then begin with the Ubuntu installation. So, let's go to restart the computer. To execute Ubuntu installer that we have in our USB drive, we have to restart the computer, and then immediately let's press the F2 or delete key many times until the BIOS screen has been displayed. Once the BIOS menu is opened, we have to choose the USB drive as the first unit to boot. To do that, we have to enter to the boot section and then choose our USB drive as the first device to boot. Once the Ubuntu installer has been loaded from our USB drive, we'll see this black screen. This black screen is displayed by an application called Group, and this is a bootloader application. In simple words, a bootloader detects any operating system that we have installed in our computer. This means that all these operating systems will be displayed in this black screen. And to start any of these operating systems, we have to choose one using the up and down arrow keys and then press enter. But this is another story. For now, let's focus on install Ubuntu. To do that, we have to choose the try or install Ubuntu option and then press enter. So let's go. In this screen, we can see the Ubuntu installer wizard, and all we have to do is to choose the better option that aligns to us. For example, for this window, we have to choose our language. In my case, I will choose English. Click on English and click Next. Now Ubuntu offers us accessibility options. These accessibility features are very useful for people that can't see or can't hear, for example. In our case, we'll just click on Next. Now we have to choose our keyboard layout. I will choose the Spanish Latin American layout. Click on your preferred keyboard layout and click on Next. On this screen, we have to choose Use wired connection if our computer is connected to internet. Choose the other option if not, then click on Next. On this screen, the wizard is asking us if we want to install Ubuntu on our computer using a disk space, or maybe we just want to use it for a moment and we don't want to install it on the computer. For this video, we'll choose the first option, install Ubuntu. So let's click on Next. On this screen, we just choose the first option, interactive installation. Click on Next. On this screen, we have to choose what applications we want to use. If you're not sure what applications you would like to use, just use the default selection. Then click on Next. On this screen, the wizard is asking us if we want to install proprietary software. Remember that Linux is open source, and to avoid any compatibility issues, for example with NVIDIA drivers, the recommendation is to install this software. So let's check the two options and let's click on Next. On this screen, the wizard is asking us how do we want to install Ubuntu in our disk drive. We have two options: erase all the disk and install Ubuntu. This means that all the information in our disk drive will be removed to install Ubuntu. The other option is to use the manual installation. To use the manual installation, we need to have some expertise about disk partitioning. If you are a beginner on Linux and in disk partitioning, I recommend you to use a separate disk to install Linux. For this case, let's choose the first option and then let's click on Next. Now let's create a user account to use Ubuntu. Just use your personal information to fill this form. I will use John as my name. My computer will be named Ubuntu 24. The username that I will use on Ubuntu will be jplc, and my password is secret. To confirm the password, we'll use the same password we entered previously. And I will left checked the option require my password to log in. Click on next. On this window, we have to choose our time zone. In my case, this is OK, America La Paz. Click on next. And finally, we have this summary window showing us all the options we chose. If this information is OK, let's click on install. Now we have to wait some minutes to finish the installation. Okay, the Ubuntu installation has been completed. Click on Restart Now. As a final step, we have to remove our USB drive. After that, we have to press Enter. So far, the installation has been completed. Now we have to log in into the system. Because this is the first time we are using the system, let's set up some additional settings. So, click on Next. Because Ubuntu Linux is a distribution that is distributed as open source and commercial software, we have the option to enable this installation to Ubuntu Pro. In our case, we just use the open source version. So let's click on Next. In this section, we choose the option No, because we don't want to share any data of our system. Click on Next, and that's all. Let's click on Finish. Our installation has been finished. Now we can proceed to upgrade our system and start to installing all applications that we need. I hope you have found helpful this content. Thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, and tell me if you have any doubts or suggestions in the comments. Goodbye.